Hi, welcome back to the Detective Story Podcast. I'm Mike Hammond. Thanks a lot for joining in again. Really appreciate it. Tonight, kind of doing a special episode here, pretty quickly on the heels of releasing episodes 10 and 11. Episode 12 here, I'm kind of doing specifically as I'm sitting here recording. It is 2:47 a.m. and 29th of June. 2024. Significant in that 50 years ago to this hour, Becky Breedlove was still alive. And in episode 4, I told you the story about Becky Breedlove, the only open case that I have talked about thus far. And 50 years later, we're still trying to get answers. What I didn't do in that episode was really give you a lot of information about Becky, because frankly, I didn't have it. I had reached out to her family, and though I had talked to her son, he was a very young boy at the time and had little recollection. I had not yet gotten a hold of her sister. So I really wanted to tell the story of that investigation and get the ball rolling, keep the ball rolling in trying to solve her murder. So in the interim, I have spoken to her sister, Robyn, who agreed to do an interview with me and tell us a little bit about Becky. I'm going to keep this intro short and the outro short so we can hear mostly from Robyn, and let her tell you about her four-year-older sister, Becky. So please give a listen. I appreciate it. And as always, when you download, subscribe, leave us a review. It helps a great deal. Our downloads are getting very close to a point where, we can really do some cool things with this show. So it means a lot to me. So up next, Robyn Breedlove. I'll talk to you after. Thank you. If I recorded this for that show?
No. You have my permission. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So first of all, how you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while.
I've been up and down. Just having, it's really hot down here, and I'm real susceptible to the heat, so I can't get out. I've already had one heat exhaustion episode that almost ended me in the hospital. So, what about you? How's it been going?
Everything's good with me. Just kind of busy, but everything's good. That's a good thing to be busy, I guess, Yep.
Have you heard anything from your podcast? Anybody made any comments?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of interest. I can't say that we've really heard anything new.
Anybody that knows.
Yeah, nothing really new on the case yet, although, I do, like I told you, I do have some guys that are still working that are looking at it. But it might take a little bit of time because they're,
I wouldn't expect anything for a long time. It takes time for people to think things over before they want to get involved anymore.
Yeah, that's partially it. And they also want to do, a little more looking for the evidence and that. But I just want to keep, just keep her name out there. People really seem to respond very positively to that episode. I've gotten lots and lots of listens on it and lots of responses from people who. So first, let me just say how much I appreciate you, talking to me and coming on. I know it's always very difficult for family members, so I really appreciate it.
It's us who appreciate it. This is the first time in all these years that anybody's shown any interest in this, and it is deeply appreciated. I thank you for it.
Well, you're welcome. Becky's case, there are still people alive that knew Becky, had interaction with her. The one person I wish I could find that I have not been able to is her friend here in Chicago that was
Linda Cooksey?
Yeah, right. But let's get back to the start here. Can you tell my listeners just first you're younger than Becky?
Yeah, about 4 years, 3.5.
Okay. Could you just kind of in your own words tell my listeners about Becky, your recollection, and just about her your recollection of her as a sister, as a person, all of those things?
Well, as a person, Becky was very, very beautiful. And in that day and age, a lot of times they didn't take women seriously. And when she went to Chicago, I remember she was going to try to model. And she did do a little bit, but she said, they treat you like a, just meat. They don't, like you don't have any brains or anything. And she really couldn't stand that, because Becky was one of those women that was beautiful, but also smart. And anyway, I just, remember her. She was very fair-minded about a lot of things, about people and things like that.
And then, what, like, in high school, you'd have been 4 years younger than her.
She was just, I'm having a hard time with this. You might want to.
No, I understand. Don't worry about that. This is always emotional, believe me.
But anyway, she's just a good person. And she liked to have fun and stuff like that, but she wasn't a giddy, silly type person either. And I kind of got from your first broadcast which you had no way of knowing, but made it sound like, and I guess she was naive. But when I was up there, it was a rule with her when I went and stayed with her for about a month. You do not let anybody in that you didn't know. Just how careful she was about being around, letting people you don't know. She was aware. She wasn't that naive. But when you talk about the people she was around, the mob and stuff like that, bad people can seem good too,
Of course.
And a lot of people that do bad things are not necessarily evil people. So all I can say is Becky evidently found them interesting. I know that when she went into the job as a bartender, she was just burnt out. She'd been working for.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was no way for me to gauge really.
You couldn't know.
Yeah, no, like, I don't even mean like in judgment of, whether she, whatever. I just didn't, there was no way for me to gauge how well she knew, the city and the people that she was hanging around, which was kind of why I was really interested in trying to find her friend Linda, because Linda could have like given me a stronger kind of, but that's really interesting to hear you say that, because I think that's really helpful to know that, when you were up here staying with her, that she had that kind of, those kind of boundaries. She understand.
She was very well. And, I'm being a Mississippi girl, they were gone one evening, and the apartment was not that far from Lake Michigan. And I kind of took off and walked around the lakefront a little bit, which got me into a lot of trouble. So you just didn't do things like that,
So she was aware then.
She wasn't just a, silly girl up there. Let me put it that way.
I understand that. And they really thought a lot of her there at the Capitol Records in that job. Was she doing that job when you visited her?
Pardon? She worked with them, but when she died, I just had a child, so I wasn't. I was kind of still recovering.
Yeah, busy with that. Right, I understand.
But I remember my dad went up there a lot, which worried me because that one thing he made us realize after all this, to realize what you guys had to deal with up there. He was aware of it.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I mean, I got from the notes that your father was very involved in it. He actually there's a note in there and a piece of article that he offered a $2,500 reward to one of the Chicago.
Yeah, he
put an article in one of the Chicago newspapers about putting in a reward for information. That would have been in August of 74. So just about a month after she was killed. It sounds like your father came up and did quite a bit. There's a lot of discussion in the reports about, your father being here and them trying to be.
My dad was a smart man too, so. anyway,
yeah, it sounds like, well, first of all, I mean, it sounds like your parents must have been really good people. They're very involved, and also, you know, I won't name them here, but they took in Becky's son and raised him, and as you know, I talked to him, and he seems to have had, I mean, obviously it's a difficult thing for him, but he seems to have gone on and led a very successful life. He seems very, very well adjusted and doing very well, and that was my impression of my conversation with him, and that's a real testament to your mother and father, right?
Oh, definitely. They did, that was a lot for them to do at their age. So anyway,
I'm sure it was. Could you just give me a little bit of a feel of what Becky was like when she was young? You said she was real, popular in high school, and
well, yes, I mean, she was popular, but she didn't like running with the in crowd or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just to me, she was just an exceptional person. But she was my sister. Sisters don't always get,
Yeah, I get it.
Anyhow.
Yeah, I understand. So could you explain to me a little bit, if you don't mind, like what you mean by you exceptional? Like, she was very smart, you said, but is there more to that?
She was a good artist. She was very talented that way. And, like I said, I think that she had a hard time. Sometimes people don't take women seriously, and I think she had a hard time with that.
Yeah, I understand, especially in that time period in 1970s.
Yeah, exactly.
She's
I'm having a hard time with this. I didn't think I would.
No, listen, it's understandable. I think everybody will understand it. It's hard because she was your sister, so it doesn't matter how long ago it was. It doesn't matter any of that. It's hard to have that loss, and I think everybody understands that. I certainly do. But it seems clear. Well, let me backtrack just a little bit. You and I spoke after I had recorded that episode about Becky, and to be to own up to my end of it. I probably didn't paint as compassionate a picture of Becky as should have been fair, because I was more focused on still trying to find out what happened and talking about the kind of the clinical part of the investigation and getting that out there so people would understand, and hopefully it would shake something loose and we get some new information, which continues to be ongoing. And we're at the 50th anniversary of her death, which is significant, and we want to keep her name alive. But I mean, in fairness to her, I did not kind of go into the person she was, and that's why I really appreciate this conversation with you, because I think it's a really important piece of this, that people understand that Becky, who she was, and what she was about. She was clearly very smart. She was independent. She wasn't some silly party girl that was out doing silly things. She worked very hard. She had a great reputation there with her job, and she also worked as a waitress on the side. So she was a serious person, it sounds like, and that sounds like that's true from your growing up with her and your knowledge of her as well, right?
She was conscientious about, what she did. So, but I know that I've got a different view because she's my sister.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm going to look at it through rose-colored glasses, but but Becky was, she had her faults just like everybody else, but she definitely didn't deserve what happened to her.
She definitely did not, and that's why 50 years later, we're still carrying this mantle. You guys still want answers, and I want to know what happened, and the people I worked with want to know what happened. We don't forget about these things; they don't go away, and we often can't get what we want done in the time period we want. It just depends on a lot of factors, but that doesn't mean that it goes away or we forget about it.
No, but I will say this one thing over the years that I have learned to be grateful is that we had a body. We knew what happened to her, and then you see, these cases where people just go missing.
Yeah.
And you don't have anything. And, I can't imagine what those families go through.
Yeah, you're
So you got to look for a silver lining.
Yeah, right. That makes perfect sense. And
but Becky, you want to hear about what Becky was like? She was popular, and she did make an impression with a lot of people. You know.
Yeah.
And she went to Ole Miss for a while, which didn't work out for her because, like I said, the cliques and all that, the sorority, and she didn't go in for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, to just put it quite blankly, she thought they were all kind of. But the fact that she moved out of the state of Mississippi never surprised me.
Yeah.
She didn't fit in with a lot of the people down here, but she had all the friends she had in high school and stuff are the ones I remember, and they were, they've all turned out well and all that. So, she hung around with good people too.
Yeah. I saw there was, I think I told you this. I saw on, like, when I was researching this online, I found a kind of obituary, and you didn't remember the guy at all, but there was somebody that put a note on her kind of obituary page that he had known her in high school and thought a lot of her.
Oh, you told me about that, and I can't remember what his name was.
Yeah, but I just thought, well, that's a testament to somebody, and that message was only like 5 years old. So I mean, all these years later, somebody that she went to school with still remembering her and fondly, and that's a, that's.
I would run into people down here even after 10 years, that I wouldn't have seen, and they would ask me how Becky was. They hadn't heard.
Oh. So would you mind if I asked, do you remember when she moved to Chicago or when she started talking about it or any of that?
Let's see. She would have been, I think, about 19 years old or so. Because she went from Ole Miss, and then she came back down here for just a little while until, she and Linda, she decided to move up there with Linda.
I see.
So,
and was she excited about that move? Just sounds like she had a bigger kind of view of the world than just
she did.
Mississippi. No knock on, I got no judgment on the people of Mississippi. I never really spent time down there, but it sounds like she had a kind of bigger view of the world and wanted to see more things.
She did. Yeah. She did.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've got a rosy-colored view of my sister. And like I said, I'm sure other people, but she was a spunky gal, Yeah. She wasn't real big, but she didn't let people run over her.
Right. And I want to be clear about something here, both to you and to my listeners. I have this propensity when I'm talking about an open homicide like this to kind of be a little clinical and just talk about the evidence and what we know to be true and what evidence is out there, maybe, some thoughts about what I think based on my experience. But outside of that, I want to make it clear here that there is nothing in any of the reports. There's none of the detectives I ever talked to that worked on it, none of the other people that I ever talked to that were involved that ever had anything negative to say about her. Even in the reports, it looks like, and I hope I didn't give that impression. I just tend to be a little clinical when I'm trying to solve a case, So,
I appreciate that, Mike. That's what you have to do, because to get to the truth, sometimes you got to, muddle through a bunch of stuff that's not nice.
Right. That's exactly right. But I just wanted to make that clear, because you and I have had this couple conversations now, and and I did listen back and again to it, and there's two things going on.
Hi, this is Mike Hammond. Let's take a moment from our regular programming for a real talk about safety and security. I want to introduce you to Blue Knight Security Solutions, your ultimate partner in protection. Blue Knight Security Solutions isn't just your average security company. They are a team of elite detectives, investigators, and law enforcement professionals with unparalleled expertise. Whether you need real-world investigative prowess or comprehensive security measures for your business, synagogue, church, school, or any gathering place you feel at risk, Blue Knight Security Solutions has you covered. From risk assessment to tailored security plans, they'll ensure your safety is priority number one. If you're in need of real safety, contact Blue Knight Security Solutions today at 773-706-4920 or visit BlueKnightSecuritySolutions.com. Again, Knight like the round table, BlueKnightSecuritySolutions.com. Tell them I sent you. All right. Thank you. And back to the show.
I was still trying to solve her murder. That to us, it doesn't matter if it happened yesterday or 50 years ago. We want it solved. But so there's that, which can make it sound a little bit impersonal in these open cases. Now, when the cases are solved and I know the whole story of what happened, a lot of times it's a little easier to kind of tell the victim's story. In this case, that's why it's so valuable that you've made contact with me and we've been able to talk, and that's why I wanted to do this interview and put out another episode about Becky, and that for that reason. Well, I'm also going to talk about still a little bit. I want people to help reach out. I mean, we want to solve it. We want to find out what happened, but more importantly, I wanted to give you the opportunity, and I want to spend a little time talking about, look, this is, she was just not one of those homicide numbers of that year. She was a good, really good human being who had a young child who people really liked and loved. And so that's what this is about, really, so I appreciate you really doing
you're trying to humanize her. And, like I said, the only thing that I disagreed with your first was that she sounded frivolous and naive and kind of, stupid on matters like that. And she was not. I know that personally from her getting on to me. And believe me, she could have a real harsh tone when she wanted to. But
that's not, and that's really important information, not only from humanizing her and telling her side a little bit, but also factually for the case to know that, she wasn't that type of person. She wasn't a person. She was careful. She wouldn't just let somebody, walk into her apartment she didn't know. And there was no sign of a forced break-in. So that tells us important information. So, I mean, you really are helping here with the investigation, because it's giving me a deeper knowledge of, who she was and what could have or what probably didn't happen.
She had a temper, she didn't, wasn't like somebody running around just constantly, but when she got mad, she let you know it. And, and I saw her and Chester in an argument one time, and that was the one reason that I thought he could have done it. Because she was in his face about something, and he pushed her really hard across the room. And I'd never seen anything like that. My parents didn't, or the parents that I knew, I weren't wife or beaters or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But in the interim, I've had a chance to, look at, because if a man hit me, that might be the last thing he would want to do. Right. But Becky was kind of the same way. Uh-huh. But women that do stuff like that, men just, when somebody gets in your face, you're just going to do what's natural. So, it wasn't like a good apple or something.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that, well, first of all, that gives me an even deeper respect for her. I mean, I always admire people that stand up for themselves and, won't be victimized. And that's a picture that you're painting of Becky that I admire. I mean,
Well, the thing is over time, I just don't think Chester could have done it. I mean, I like Chester. Uh-huh. He wasn't. He was a nice person too. Uh-huh. But again, people say, well, he was cheating on his wife, which I think that's horrible. But
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying.
But I don't think he could have done it.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I don't have any evidence, to suggest that he was involved, but
he couldn't be ruled out. But still,
yeah. At this point, we kind of got to still leave all options open. But no, I appreciate that input from you. It's all important. Again, we're hearing. Unfortunately, as painful as it is to say, Becky can't speak for herself. So you're brave enough and strong enough and close enough to her to give us a picture and give us an opinion. And I really appreciate that, because without it, we don't.
She would not have let anybody in that apartment unless she knew him.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, Chester was there. He's got to be a suspect, but she was very aware of things like that. But then look at the people she was around. I can't.
Well, I mean, a lot of that's just circumstance. I mean, the neighborhood she lived in, she was working part-time in a restaurant where somebody's like what we call outfit, what a lot of people call mafia. Around the rest of the country, we call them outfit guys. They just hung out there. She's an attractive girl. She's working there. I'm just going to draw her attention. That's not anything she did wrong. I don't have any. There's no indication whatsoever in anything that the FBI was involved in this a little bit, because there's some reports where they had an informant that they had talked to, and they're through all of that, there is no discussion at all that Becky had any involvement in anything they were doing or anything like that. It was all just kind of they were in the area. She had conversations with them and maybe had a drink with a few of them, is the most that is said. So I don't think there's no indication that she was like attracted to the bad boys or whatever, things like that. You know what I mean?
Really, I think she really would have done something in life.
Yeah, and there's every indication that's true. I mean, I don't know that we discussed this when we talked before, but that boss she talked to at Capitol Records, and I talked about this in the original episode, but it sounds like her job was to go around to the record stores, which are a big deal in 1974. And it's funny, they're kind of making a comeback now, vinyl. But she would go around to the record stores, and she would see how many Capitol Records they were selling, and try and encourage them to sell more, and by all accounts, her boss said she was really good at it and she really enjoyed it. And that had to have been a pretty cool job in 1974, I think, with music being so popular and record stores being so popular,
Right. She was good at it, like I said. And it's just...
Take your time. Take your time.
You don't ever get over stuff like this, I don't guess. But
no.
Like I said, there are things you have to look for, things to be thankful for, I guess. So,
yeah, I well, for me personally, I think it was a really, it was a rewarding conversation for me to talk to her son. I mean, I try and find something cathartic or positive in all of these that I do, no matter how rough they are, and they're all rough. But talking with her son really was good for me, because he clearly has done well for himself. Very clear-minded gentleman that was appreciative of the conversation, and led me to you, because he was 2 years old or 3 years old, whatever he was at the time, and so he didn't have a strong recollection. So he said, you should really talk to my aunt. But he was a polite gentleman that clearly.
Yes, he is. He's somebody Becky would have been proud of, I'm sure.
I agree with that. I think any mother would be proud of what he has done with himself. So that's really.
But he's an extension of Becky.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't necessarily know her. If you could just ask me some more questions, and I'll try to answer some.
No, it's okay. I think we've covered a lot. And you've done a great job. I really appreciate it. I think
not as helpful as I'd hoped to be.
Well, no. Actually, you've been very helpful. I think you've given some real insight into Becky and her personality and who she was, and I think that is very helpful, because without you, how do we get
how do we get that picture of who she was now 50 years ago, so it's really important, I think, so don't, I hope that does mean something to you. So I don't really think I have any other questions. Really, I think you've really done a great job of what I hope to do, and that is, to get my listeners and people, a better picture of who Becky was beyond me just talking about, the investigation. So that's great. And again, just based on, I want to say one more time, I really have a great admiration for your parents, because your dad seemed like a very forceful, driven man, and he not only came up and advocated heavily for Becky, which is great, and every father says they'd love to do and would do, but he actually did it. And then beyond that, they take her son Jeffrey, was a very young boy at that time, and they raised him to be a very, very good man. I mean, that's just it's amazing testament to them. And you're obviously a really good human being, so they were really doing something right. And all of us who are parents, I think, sit in admiration of that, because it's a hard job, right? As you know, and every parent knows.
It is hard to raise children. So, anyhow.
Well, that's good. I want to close here real quick, and then I'd like to talk to you for a couple seconds after I finish recording. But before I do that, is there anything else that you'd like for the listeners to know, or you'd like to say, or you have any questions for me?
No, not really. It seems like I've talked about myself, but that seems to be the only way that I can kind of put things in perspective, is through the way I see it.
No, I think that's fair.
Anyway, like I said, I'm just lucky to have had Becky as a sister. That's all I can say. She was really something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you represent her very, very well. I think she'd be proud of you as well. I mean, I think she'd be proud of you now, just standing up for her like this. So, yeah, and I don't think you've made it about yourself at all. I think you've done a great job of making it about Becky and telling us about her. And you do have to do it through your own life experience. What else do we have, so.
And the fact that what happened to her was so brutal that it's almost as if somebody had to be really angry with her.
I agree with that. These things don't go away. That's the thing about murders. They never go away, and we never stop looking at them. I mean, one, you never know. People change over time, and as they get closer to, potentially, if you're a religious person, meeting their maker, they sometimes will decide that, it's time to come clean.
These TV shows where they do the cold case files, is it hard to, what you're doing to me is kind of like that. That's why I appreciate it so much, because I had thought over the years that maybe if we could get in touch with something, one of those that they could, put it out in the sunlight again. And that's what you're doing now. So maybe something will still happen,
Yeah, that's why.
Maybe
that's why
somebody hears another.
Never know, and that's why I really appreciate you coming on talking to me, because I think hearing this part about, kind of telling more about what Becky was like as a human being, it can't hurt. It can only help.
And that's all you can do. And I really appreciate you doing what you are doing, because, like I said, it's 50 years.
Yeah.
And we still don't know anything. Well, like I said, it's just has astonished me that after all this time we haven't found anything out.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and that's why I stay after it, and it's not really even my job anymore, but I've got this podcast, so
It's a good podcast. I meant to tell you, I've listened to them.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Very professional.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But, you're not too clinical. So that's nice.
I appreciate
but anyway, listen, I'm going to let you off the phone. I've kept you too long already.
Okay.
But
all right.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, so thank you very much, Robyn, for joining us and giving us this insight. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and we'll keep pushing. So there you go. The powerful, brave, and bereaved
Robyn Breedlove. The conversation actually went on for much longer than what you heard, probably an hour longer. But in the interest of her privacy and your time and kind of staying on point, I edited that down some, that conversation. But it was a great conversation. The editing is on me. Also on me was I attempted to keep Becky's son's name out of it. It came up anyway in the conversation. I hope he forgives me that. I did talk to him on the phone. Sounds like one hell of a good man who has done his mother and his grandmother and grandmother proud. So I really appreciate Robyn doing that interview with me. It means a lot. You got a real picture now of who Becky Breedlove was, not just a name on a piece of paper and a report, right? So before I go any further here, I promised I'd make this short, and I will. I have a couple things to say. First, I want to give some acknowledgements, shout outs to my friends, Brendan Sullivan and Julie Shonitis, who both lost their fathers this past week. Both great men. And though they were older and lived great long lives and raised strong, beautiful children who I'm sure they were very, very proud of, the loss will still be felt strongly, of course. To my friend Brian Simmons also, who lost his sister in an unfortunate accident. I know he's hurting. I'm thinking of you, and I'm never far away, brother. And last, in that regard, last week we also lost, a week and a half ago, good friend of mine and Chicago legend, I think it's fair to say, for his book, American Skin, that he wrote. He was also a writing teacher at Columbia College, Don DeGrazzi. Donnie was a great guy, a good friend, and his uncle Ernie Johnson is a very close friend of mine, and will miss his nephew very much, as will Donnie's 18-month-old daughter. So if there's anything that we can do to help with them, I will let you know. So that's to the business. I'm thinking about all of you guys, and that's it. So once again, I appreciate you listening in, and it does mean a lot to me. I promised some people that close to me in my life that, as I started doing the show, I'm a night owl. Clearly, everybody that knows me knows that. Years of, work or just whatever. My brain's most awake when everybody else is sleeping. But I did promise some people that really care about me that I would not do this recording much late at night, because they tell me, oh, you sound tired. So I try and do all my recording during the day and do research and everything else at night. But tonight's a little different. And the show's a little different. Got Robyn on here a couple of days ago to do that interview. And I wanted to get that out there. And obviously, putting it out today is significant and meant a lot to me. As it is now 4:20 a.m. on the 29th of June, 2024, the witty, smart, fun, beautiful Becky Breedlove was dead at this hour, just like that. So that's the story. I appreciate you listening in. There may come a time where nobody's left to look at Becky's murder, and there may come a time where the young detectives who are hungry to listen to my silly stories and pick it up and continue to push these cases, which I admire and appreciate. There may come a time where they just get too busy and there's too many Becky Breedloves, and maybe that day comes where the hunt stops and whoever did this is gone. But today's not that day, so the hunt continues. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining in. I'll talk to you soon. Till then, please take care of yourself and take care of each other.